So that's why you don't have to do this.
Your parents left?
No, my parents are coming again. My father's coming tonight because we have a chassan in Borough Park. And my mom's going to come in 2 weeks for seating.
Aha. Okay. So. Is she going to come to the class?
No, she has a lot of stuff to do with the teams.
Too bad. Where's Haya? Atkins. Okay. This is Sola.
Yeah.
Yes. Sola. That's like my wife's name. They call her Soli.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Short for Solika. Here's Batya. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Okay, Mrs. Shapiro is here. Ronnie Rosenbaum is here. Good morning, Ronnie.
Is there any cleansing or I have to do this?
No, I'm going to do it for Rabbi Pape, but the other rabbis, I mean, not everyone.
Yeah.
Rochel Chana. It's easier to remember your name than to find it on the sheet. Tahir. It's because not in alphabetical order. It starts off in alphabetical order, but then they kept on adding new names on the bottom. So put more alphabetical order.
They need a new shape, but they keep on changing. They keep on adding new, so they keep changing all the time.
Right.
Maybe the new system will be easier. Once you learn it online or something.
Okay, girls, I'm going to start off the class with an insight. Insight. That insight means a view, an interview. An interview. You know, there were two skunks. Everybody knows what a skunk is?
No.
A skunk.
Yeah.
It's a little black animal.
Yeah.
So one was called in and one was called out. They were twin, in and out. And in got lost. So out said, okay, I'll find him, no problem. I know where, I'll find him, no problem. And sure enough, he came back very shortly with his mate. He said, how'd you find him so quickly? He said, instinct.
I don't know.
Instinct.
Sometimes you have to explain a joke, but you kill it when you explain it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to explain it. You'll have to ask your girlfriends, what's the joke? And they will explain it. You ask Chaya Atkins, she'll explain it to you. Hannah McGarry. Here she comes. Leah, where's Leah?
She's here.
Yeah, she's bringing me a cup of coffee. She's big, right.
Coffee maker.
Okay. Well, it says that Rava started every class with a little joke, so that was my little joke. That takes me back, like that's like, 9 years old, 10 years old, that kind of a joke. Now I'm going to tell you something a little bit deeper. I was reading a sikha last night, a very deep sikha from Tov Nun, where the Rebbe asks the classic question. Why do the 10 Commandments begin by saying, I'm the Lord your God who took you out of the land of Egypt? Why doesn't it say, I'm the Lord your God who created, creator of heaven and earth? And that's very interesting because the book of the Kuzari also begins with that question from many hundreds of years earlier. I think maybe it was written 600 years ago. 500, 600 years ago, about something that happened 1,300 years ago, where we had this, so even there's a write-up on it on Chabad.org this week. The Khuzars were, no, leave the door open, please. Otherwise people will be afraid to come in. The Khuzars were a tribe of, like a Mongol tribe. You know who the Mongols were? Yeah, social studies. That's what, grade 6 social studies. Yeah, from Mongolia, right. So they were a warrior tribe, and the leader, the king of the Mongol tribe, the Khuzars, had a dream of God. But God appeared to him and said, your thoughts are good, but your actions are not good. And he didn't understand it, so he called scholars to explain the dream to him. They couldn't explain the dream, so he called He called different religious leaders to him, and they couldn't explain the dream. Muslim leader, Christian, called Greek philosophers. No one could give him an explanation. That he's sort of like Pharaoh. Yeah. And so he called the most lowly of people at that time, a Jewish rabbi, and the Jewish rabbi explained it to him. And as a result of his explanations, he became a Jew. And since he was a king, the whole nation became Jews. It was an extraordinary phenomenal thing. It was like when Mashiach comes. And Rabbi Yehuda Halevi wrote this up in a book called the Kuzari, which is really a book of Jewish philosophy. And the Alter Rebbe studied it and learned it and quotes it. And he asks the same question. Why does Hashem begin the 10 Commandments with, I am the Lord your God who took you out of the land of Egypt? All the others, when they began to explain to the king, as it says in this book anyway, they all began with the idea that God is the creator of heavens and the earth. And the Jew did not. The Jew began with the idea that God made a covenant with our father Abraham, and he ratified this covenant with Yitzchak, his son, and with Yaakov and his children after them. And he guided them and took them down to the land of Egypt, where they were enslaved for 210 years. Good morning, Shoshana, Chassid, my Hasidic student. And he took them out of there with great signs and wonders, and he gave them his law. A totally different approach. Did you hear that? Did you follow what I said? Hannah, did you follow? Were you listening? No. All of the different philosophers and religious leaders began with the same idea, that Hashem is the creator of the heavens and the earth. And he was not happy with their explanation. And he called a rabbi as a last resort. He had no desire to speak to the Jews were a lowly, despised nation in the world at that time in history. And he began explaining differently. He didn't explain the dream. When he says, who is this God? He didn't say he is the creator, as every other religious leader and philosopher did. He said, God made a covenant with our father Abraham. It's a family affair. We are here because our parents are here. And they are here because their parents are here. And they're here because their parents are here. And this is a covenant. A covenant is a contract, a bond, a binding that goes generation after generation after generation. And he took us faithfully, according to this covenant, down to Egypt, where we were enslaved, and he took us out of there with signs and wonders. And he gave us his law to live by. That's how the 10 Commandments begin. It's a totally different approach from any other religion or philosophy. And therefore, the king of the Kuzar believed it, and he became Jewish. And since he was a king, all his people became Jewish. Now, the Rebbe explains this in the Sikha in 1990, Tafshin Nun. And the way it comes out is like this. There's a tremendous advantage to the way God revealed himself to us when he took us out of Egypt, far greater than the creation of the heavens and the earth. Far greater than that God is the creator. Please open the back door. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akal nivra. What's the difference? The difference is this. How did God create the world? Everybody knows God spoke and created the world. We say it in our prayers every day. Baruch Sha'omar, blessed is God who spoke. Bara Olam created the world. V'hoya Olam, and the world came into existence. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. Everything is what he said. Is your speech the highest part of you? He says you are what a person is, what he says. But is that who you really are?
No.
It's not even your name. I said yesterday, these tissues, they're lighter and they're smaller than what tissues used to be. So they're cheaper, but you have to use twice as many. Oh, so what do you, they're fooling you. So the whole creation of the world is a revelation of God's speech. Speech is from Malchus. Malchus is the last of the 10 spheres, the bottom. God speaks, so to speak. It's not a human being, but that's how it's revealed. What we do when we speak is what he did. What do we do when we speak? You're sitting here. I don't know if you're listening or not. How do I know? Unless you tell me, I don't know. So speech reveals what we don't know. Speech reveals what we think. A person could sit here and be thinking the deepest thoughts about Hasidus. A person could be sitting here thinking about going skiing or going swimming, going to the beach, thinking about home, thinking about Israel, thinking about dance class, thinking about the spring sales of clothing, get myself something nice for Pesach. Can think all kinds of things we don't know. It's all hidden. So similarly, God is hidden. We don't know what he is unless he speaks and he reveals to us what he's thinking about. That's what the Torah is. The Torah reveals God's thoughts and feelings. Speech, he creates the world. How does he create the world? We're going to learn this in the Tanya, maybe if we ever get there. It says, Behi Baram, he created, Behi Baram, he created them. Them is everything in the world. Now this is Basya. Liubav, right? Yeah. Gianna, your name is under Basya. Shirel came in, Kohen Laba, Saban. Welcome. Anybody whose name I didn't call yet? Well, no, we got everybody. Okay. So speaking reveals that which is hidden. That's the whole idea. With Behi Baram, he created all of them. The sages say, take the word Behi Baram. Here's Chaya. Finally showed up. Okay. Well, I knew you were coming, Chaya. I had faith. Here's the word. Look at this. This is a great concept. Behi Baram. This means he created them. God created them. Baram is he created them. And the word Baram, he created. Created, and the mem means them. Be means with or by. So with a he, Baram, Hashem created the whole world. What is this he? This is the letter Hey. Now everybody breathe in. Sit up straight. Sit up straight. Come on, sit up straight. Take a deep breath. Now through your mouth, breathe out very slowly. Okay, now do it again. Take a deep breath. Open your mouth and breathe out slowly. You just said the letter hey. That is the letter hey. Okay. It's called a light letter. It's the easiest letter to speak. Other letters, require a b, m, n, d. Require force. Hey is just, so it says, with the creation of all the worlds, for the Eibishter is nothing more than what it is for us to say, or for those of you who are fans of the cartoon called Peanuts. So Charlie Brown says, sigh. Okay, so that's the creation of the world. It's just whereas what happened when God took us out of Egypt? Well, there's a whole series of things that happened. First of them was Hashem revealed himself to Moshe in the burning bush, which did not burn up. So was the bush burning or was it not burning? It was burning and it wasn't burning. Like on Hanukkah, the lights that lasted 8 days because they were burning, but they weren't burning. That means that God can reveal and can be in the world and not be in the world at the same time. In the Holy of Holies, there was an ark. In the ark were the 10 Commandments. In the Mishkan, that room, the Holy of Holies, was 10 amas. This is an amma. So it's like 2 feet. It's either 1.5 feet, it's 2 feet. From the Mishkan, it's a bigger measure. So 10 amas is 20 feet. And they have here the ark in the middle. And they measure from the side of the ark to the wall, and it's 5 amas. And they measure from this side to the wall, and it's 5 amas. And the whole room is 10 amas. Where was the ark? From the ark to the wall, let's say this is the wall. Here's one wall. Here's the other wall. Okay. The distance. Here is 5. Here is 5. The total distance is 10. What's going on?
Yeah, because it's 10. It's 5 and 5. So
5 and 5 is 10.
Yeah,
so where's the ark? I'm measuring from the one edge of the ark to the other edge. I have 5 and 5 is 10.
Was it about
And the whole room is 10.
Was it about the ground?
No.
It was miraculous.
The point is, it was in space. It was in the ark. It took up a measurable space. You could measure it. It was exactly, what, 2.5? 2.5 amas. It was in space, but it didn't occupy space. In other words, Hashem can create the world every single second and not be in the world. He's in the world and not in the world at the same time. Same as the burning bush. It's burning, but it's not burning at the same time. Burning bush is wood burning with fire. You touch the fire, you're going to get burned. It's hot. Avram Avinu was in the fiery furnace. Nimrod threw him in the fire furnace. It didn't burn because he was in the furnace, but he was higher than the furnace. He was on a level where fire doesn't burn. Higher level. Then came the plague of the firstborn, which took place at exactly midnight. What is midnight? We discussed this a few weeks ago. Is midnight before midnight or after midnight?
No, it's like we were talking about. It's not like a.
It's not. It's midnight is a time, right? There's a time that's called midnight.
Yeah.
But it's not in time. Either it's before midnight or it's after midnight. It's just it's after midnight is after midnight. No, midnight is midnight. It's not after time. It's not before midnight. It's not after midnight. It's a point. It's the point of creation. It's the first point of creation where creation begins. where the infinite connects with the world. That's represented by that point. That's the little point on the top of every letter. That's the beginning of creation. Before creation, there's only God. Where is the world going to go? Where is creation going to start? It's going to start with one point. Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, where did it start? With a dot on the page that became a note, that became a second note, became a third note, and dot, 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 became a whole symphony. The greatest painting in the world, where did it start? When the brush touched the canvas. The greatest novel, the longest novel, Russian novelist, Dostoevsky wrote novels that were so long, could take it till the end of Golos to finish them. That begins with one dot that your pen makes on the piece of paper. Becomes the first word of the whole. This is the beginning where infinite meets finite. Okay, so at the moment, all the other plagues took a week. The plague of the firstborn took a split second. How many times can you split a second? I can take an hour and split it into 60 minutes. I can take a minute and split it into 60 seconds. How many times can you split a second?
Infinity.
There's a level at which things no longer are subject to what we call numbers and divisions, which numbers and divisions are the theme song of this world of creation. So when Hashem took us out of Egypt with the plague of the firstborn, this was also with a revelation of God. In time, there was not time. And similarly, when we crossed the Red Sea, he turned the water into stone. How did he do it? The Tanya speaks about it. Second by second, he had to transform every single second. The water had to become transformed into stone. This is allegorically represented by a strong wind blowing, but we know that that's not impossible. That's impossible. If it was such a strong wind to split an ocean, which I never saw such a wind, there are things like it, maybe a tsunami, but still it doesn't split the whole ocean and hold it in place. And the ocean wasn't muddy. And it wasn't dark. And 10 million people went through with all their animals. We worked out in one class how many animals. Each family had 10 huge mules, Libyan mules loaded with goods. 600 families with 90 mules. How many mules is that? How did they all get through the sea in a few hours if the sea was muddy and hills and valleys and rocks? It was a highway. And the whole thing was not natural at all. It was a revelation of the infinite power of Hashem in nature, because it was a sea, and the sea split. But it was not in nature. It didn't follow the laws of nature at all. And it is a mashal from the Baal Shem Tov to illustrate to us what creation really is. Because if the wind stopped blowing for a split second, what would happen to the sea? It comes back to its original state. So therefore, the wind has to be blowing the whole time. This is an allegory, an image. This is an image of how Hashem creates the world every single second. If Hashem is not going to create the world out of nothing, it's going to go back to non-existence. And that means not just the world, that means you are being created every single second out of nothing. In order that you should say a bracha, in order that you should light a candle for Shabbos, in order that you should dress modest, in order that you should come to a class, in order you should look up into the heavens, in order that you should do a favor for a friend, in order that you should give a coin to tzedakah, Hashem is creating you out of nothing in order that you should give this coin to tzedakah. Wow! This is a much deeper revelation than all the angels are created by Hashem's breath, by a sigh. The higher worlds, Yetzirah, Bria, it's just Hashem's Behi Baram, with the letter Hey, he creates all of them. So this revelation, which we saw in the burning bush, and we saw in the plague of the killing of the firstborn, and we saw in the crossing of the Red Sea, and we're going to see again in this week's Parsha, the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai is a revelation of God that's much, much higher than the creation of the world. And that's why the Ten Commandments begin by saying, I am the Lord your God who took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, out of all limitations. Got it? You're going to say it over at the Shabbos table? It's pretty straightforward. And this is the central teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, that the whole of creation is taking place every single second. Yesh mi'ayin, something out of nothing. In order that chapter 7, we should finish chapter 7. In order that we should do a little chapter 7 today, that if we eat a kosher food with a godly thought, we elevate the energy in the food that creates it out of nothing, and you connect it and with its source in holiness, in God. Where we're on page 119. Heter and mutter means permissible. It's permissible. We are able to elevate that energy, and things that we cannot elevate that energy. The Torah says, don't do it. And that's generally translated as forbidden. But it's not forbidden as a punishment. It's forbidden because it's just not something that we can do. So Hashem says, don't go there. So the word forbidden means tied down. Asur means tied down. Asur, tie a person up. You tie, that's called la'asoroto. And things that we're allowed to do, like shopping or sports or travel, which are neither holy nor unholy, are permissible. We could elevate them. So when you travel, you stop and say, have something to eat, and you say a bracha. And you elevate the holiness in the food you eat, and you elevate the area where you are. There's a story, we're going to have to end now. The story of the Baal Shem Tov once took his students with him. They used to go in a wagon, They had wagons in those days. Baal Shem Tov's wagon was called Lexus, and his horse was called Sus. And they went turned, he faced the back and fell asleep, and the horses went where they had to go. And they came to a place in the woods, and the Baal Shem Tov stopped, and the students got down, and he took out some mashka, and he gave everybody a mashka, and they said a bracha, and they said l'chaim, and they poured some mashka. He dug a hole in the earth, he poured some mashka into the earth. And they said, what's going on? He said, there's buried here a Jew who was running away from his position. He was a hidden Jew. He was living like a Christian during the times of the Inquisition. And he decided to give it all, to give up this charade, this false charade of life, and return to lead a Jewish life. He was hoping to find his way to a Jewish community, and he didn't make it, and he died, and he was buried here. And by saying a blessing, we were able to elevate his soul. So when you stop somewhere on your journey and you have a snack, a peanut butter and jam sandwich, and you wash, or you say a mazoinus if it's mazoinus, you elevate not only the sandwich, you elevate the area. There's a reason why you stopped in that area. There are sparks of godliness there too. And that's why you stopped there, not realizing why from heaven they made sure that you stopped in that spot. Nothing is by chance. Here is Sharon and Cohen Saba. No.
It's me.
What? Oh, that's Sherelle. Let me see my crib sheet. Down on the bottom here. This is Sharon, Hani Weiss.
Called when it's tied down.
Asur. 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 Don't do that. It's Asur. Don't say that. Lashon hara, Asur. The words cannot go up to holiness. Adrabah, they make somebody once was saying a lot of things that were Asur, Lashon hara. And he said, I need to fix myself. And he went to a great rabbi, maybe it was the Chafetz Chaim. And he said, what's my tikkun? How do I fix myself? He says, get a pillow, a feather pillow. Bring me a feather pillow. So he went and he got a feather pillow. He brought the feather pillow. He said, no, I want you to slit open the feather pillow and wave it around. And the feathers flew out everywhere. And the wind came and blew the feathers everywhere. So the Chafetz Chaim said to him, now your tikkun is, your correction for your bad speech is pick up every feather. But they all blew away. He said, well, that's how Lashon hara works. When you say something bad about somebody else, it goes from person to person to person to person. It doesn't stop. How are you going to fix them? So, good lesson. All right. So similarly, if a person, however, the question was asked, what if a person eats food that's not kosher, that's asur? So then what happens? So then not only the life does not get elevated from the level of klippas, from the impure shells, but the person who is engaged with that activity that's forbidden enters into the world of that is tied down, and he or she becomes tied down spiritually in that level. Temporarily, for the time being, for a few months, until they do tshuva, until they realize, oh, that was wrong. I'm going to be careful. I'm never going to do that again. That's tshuva. As simple as that. Somebody asked one of the rebbeim once, I don't know how to do tshuva. What am I supposed to do? I have no clue how I'm supposed to do tshuva. I know I have to do tshuva because I did a lot of bad things, but I don't know how to do tshuva. Sharon, you know how to do tshuva? Yeah, you're here.
No.
You're here.
Yeah.
You're here. You came back. So the Rebbe said to him, well, you don't know how to do tshuva. How did you know how to do a transgression? How did you know how to do a sin? He says, I don't know. I just did it. He says, well, that's the same thing with tshuva. You just do it. Just do it. Be good. That's all. Be good. Don't think about yourself, about the past. Leave the past behind. If you have a chance to help somebody not to do the same thing, so do that. Okay, however, even after a person does tshuva, so when a person does tshuva, he can pull himself up out of the klippas. because the food that he ate and the wine that he drank was kosher. So when he returns to lead a good holy life, so the energy in that food comes too. This is not the case with food, the things that are forbidden. This is the case with things that we don't eat in a proper way. Without a bracha, we eat without a bracha. We don't say a bracha achreina. We eat just because we're ravenously hungry, just for our stomach. And we don't eat. It says you have to eat your food on the edge of a knife, a very sharp knife, like a sheichet's knife. If you're not careful, you're going to cut yourself, your lip, your tongue. You have to be very careful how you eat. Very hard. It's very hard to do this properly. That what you eat is for a holy purpose. Watch the video. Watch how the Rebbe drinks the wine at the beginning of the Farbrengen. Watch how he eats a few pieces of cake at the end of the Farbrengen. Oh boy. Slowly and carefully, very slowly and carefully. And he gets out of that food and that drink every spark of energy that's in it. And he teaches for hours with just that little piece of cake. Okay, so if a person, however, doesn't do that, but he eats and drinks just because he's a glutton or he's a shicker, he's a drunkard, he just likes to get drunk, likes to get happy, and it's called substance abuse. That's what they call it today, substance abuse. And then he does tshuva. Like they say, he goes clean. He goes clean for a day, a week, a month, a year, 5 years, 10 years, he's clean. Great. He saved himself from klippas, from the jail cell of the klippas, from the Beit Asurim of the klippas. However, says the Rebbe here, there's still a trace. There's still a trace left on the soul. A stain, like when you have a white chiffon blouse and you go to a simcha and somebody spills tomato sauce on it. And you take it to the cleaner and say, can you get, this is my favorite blouse, can you get it clean? I'll try, I can't promise. And it comes back clean, but there's still a trace. Okay, so it says here, page 120, there's still a trace of the impurity left in the neshama and in the body, left in the body, because you ate with the body, you ate the food, you drank the wine. That's a physical activity. There's a trace of this left in the body. Therefore, the body has to go to the cleaners, like the blouse. And that cleaners is called the grave. And Hashem has his little creatures that come and they purify the body. And that's called the purification of the grave. Thank you very much, girls. Chana, attendance. Yeah. Don't forget Rivka Ram.
So,
like Avram.